You just saw the outcomes at the Pretoria High Court earlier. There's an impromptu press conference. Let's go there live.
Constitutional Court on the constitutionality of the Section 18(2)(b) of the Riotous Assemblies Act. With regard to the Trespass Act, we think that we will, like the court said, it's a point to be argued in defense in the lower court if the charges against us continue. So we are appealing directly to the Constitutional Court, because by referring the Section 18(2)(b) for confirmation by the Constitutional Court, we have one leg inside the Constitutional Court. We just have to ask the Constitutional Court to allow us to bring both legs in the Constitutional Court and argue that matter directly in the Constitutional Court. So we have partially, gained access to the Constitutional Court, and that's where we ultimately wanted to go.
Okay. Mr. Malema, thanks. Do you see this as a victory, or it's a loss as far as you're concerned?
Well, it's a victory. The section that we are charged, you are not charged with the entire act. They take a particular section in the act to charge you. And we said that section is unconstitutional, and the court agrees with us, but argues that the act in its entirety is not unconstitutional. So that's exactly what we have asked. That was our second prayer to the court, which is the matter which is used, or a section that is used in court, in the lower court, to charge us. So we are extremely happy that the court has confirmed that we are correct.
Let me ask you about the fact that we have the Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Development and the NPA. They were opposing this matter. They are likely to oppose possibly when we take it further. What do you make of the fact that here is a piece of legislation that was drafted during the apartheid era that's being defended by the democratic government?
Well, it reflects the type of government you have. The Riotous Assemblies Act was passed in response to the adoption of the Freedom Charter in 1955. It was the same act that was used to trial Mandela and many others. And the ANC is prepared to use the same act that was used during apartheid to persecute those they disagree with. This is another demonstration of the reluctance on the part of the ANC when it comes to the land question. They use all types of law to suppress the debate on land question. Our call for the land occupation is an emphasis on the struggle to return the land into the hands of the rightful owners. And the ANC's commitment to that call is not serious. That's why they use all types of shenanigans. They've had to go into a dustbin of history to dust an apartheid law to trial us. And shame on them, because the court says to them now, but this is unconstitutional. A visionary leadership would have seen that like the EFF saw it before.
Okay, anyone else? Just a last take, and it's not necessarily related to this. It's about the remarks that you made in your media briefing that you are no longer going to vote with the DA in municipalities, but also you will not give your vote to the ANC. There's likelihood that budgets, for instance, and other laws will not be passed. Are you prepared in the posture that you are taking to even have a situation where municipalities collapses after failing to adopt budgets and calling for early elections, perhaps?
Absolutely. That's what it means. If there's going to be an early election, so be it. We had actually put that point to the DA, that since there's no outright winner, let's go to elections. Because this co-governance through a back door is not working. We have said to the DA we want Swan, because we know that Swani is badly run, and we wanted to rescue this city because the EFF leadership is committed to dealing with issues of corruption that are taking place here in Tshwane. If you hear the stories of this city, the role that is played by the CFO, which is not helpful, in uprooting corruption. It's painful, and therefore we wanted to come here and rescue, the situation. So the DA says no, but the DA didn't win elections. And when you have not won elections and you find yourself in a situation where there should be a power sharing, you ought to be prepared to share power with those who are making it possible. So they are not prepared. They behave like they've won elections. They've not won elections. The same thing will be happening in Nelson Mandela, where the ANC is governing with the UDM and the rest. We're not going to vote. It stopped on Tuesdays. It's no longer going to happen. We will debate. We're an opposition party. No one should expect anything from us. You have put us in the opposition benches. We'll do what the opposition parties do. We'll put motions. We'll oppose. We'll expose corruption. We'll expose bad service delivery. When people vote on our motion with us, we'll welcome that. But when you put your motion and we don't vote with you, you shouldn't say, but we voted with you, therefore we expect something. We're not going to work like that anymore. We're not going to be used by the DA, which says all the time, it doesn't even say co-governance or coalition. It says DA government, as if they won elections. It's not going to happen. White people will always be white people.
But you've always said that you are not co-governing with them.
Yes, I'm saying where they co-govern, they don't say co-governance. They say DA. They are co-governing with other people. And an honest organization will always refer to co-government in the municipalities where they co-govern. They don't do that. They always refer to it as a DA government.
On a separate matter as well,
yeah.
Did they elaborate going through your dustbins? What is your take on that?
Well, you don't take us to dustbins, because that's what you are doing. We are not going to the dustbin. I'm sorry. If you want to go to the dustbin, go yourself. Don't take us with you. You want to live in the dustbin, go and stay in the dustbin. You will smell dustbin.
Mr. Malema, you spoke about the EFF taking up arms by all means on your press briefing earlier this week. What exactly did you mean by that?
I mean exactly that. The EFF says in its constitution, we will use any means necessary to achieve the objective of the revolution. If at some point the condition necessitates of us to take up arms, we will not hesitate. The ANC did the same. Throughout it has been peaceful. When the need arises for them to take up arms, your favorite Nelson Mandela took up arms. There's nothing new about what we're saying. There's nothing unusual about what we're saying. We're not saying we're going to take up arms. We're saying if conditions are made impossible for us to operate in the country peacefully, and they require of us to take up arms, we'll do so. We'll not hesitate. We'll do everything in our power to attain the objectives of the revolution, and therefore we're not scared. So I'm not making this statement for the first time.
Some people will ask, what would be such conditions that would necessitate you taking up arms? I mean, this is a democratic country.
Just to add what he said, Mr. Malema, and right-wing organizations as well could think that this is inciting violence again.
Well, when you start suppressing political speech, when you imprison people, when you use violence to resolve political differences, when you respond to peaceful protest through violence, you're leaving us with no option but to respond with violence. The conditions in South Africa as we speak now do not necessitate for any of those actions. But look, we have experiences of countries which moved from democratic dispensation into dictatorship and suppression of political speech and human rights. And when that presents itself in South Africa, we will not hesitate. There are right-wing parties which are training people in the farms. We have not seen trash journalists going into those farms to expose those right-wingers which are preparing to take arms and undermine a democratic constitution in South Africa. So we're not exciting any violence. So it is in the constitution of the EFF. I think that people should do themselves a favor and read. Then they will appreciate what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Mr. Malema, just, I know we're bouncing you now from one topic to the other.
Yeah, that's
Can
okay.
we just go back
Yeah,
to
okay.
the actual court case?
Yeah.
Just for, the man on the street that's watching live,
Yes.
the subsection in the that's now referred back to the Constitution, could you break it down to us what exactly it is, just so that everybody understands what stands to be challenged here?
Well, the section says a person, firstly, we are charged for incitement. And then the section says a person who incites can be charged and sentenced the same way as the person who commits. So committing a crime and inciting a crime ought to be two different things. But that section treats them as the same thing.
So, meaning as the section stands right now, if an EFF member...
If I say to you, occupy land, and you go and occupy land, they arrest you for occupation of land, and then sentence you for occupying land, I will also be sentenced as if I occupied the land myself.
And obviously, you don't have control over what happens on the ground.
We do have control on what happens on the ground with regard to the EFF members and supporters, but we are saying the whole act is unconstitutional in the sense that it doesn't have place in a democratic South Africa, because it was passed in response to the Freedom Charter. Remember, the Freedom Charter said, you shall occupy the land wherever you wish to do so. And then in response to that section, they passed the Riotous Act to say anyone who does that, or anyone who incites people to do that, shall be arrested and sentenced the same way as those who have occupied the land.
Okay, anyone else? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, that's the EFF leader, Julius Malema, after his court application to challenge the constitutionality of the Riotous Assemblies Act was dismissed. Malema was at the Pretoria High Court over his land occupation comments. He has just finished addressing the media there outside the Pretoria High Court.